Hey, I'm back again. So I thought it would be a nice treat, since we were getting so close to the holidays, to take a family trip for the weekend. I packed up the car with just some bare minimums, and away we went. We drove for a few hours and arrived at our hotel safely, when my wife realized that we had forgotten our son.
You stupid!
How is this even possible? Well, if you have a teenage boy today, all they seem to do is play games on their phone, with their AirPods in their ears, and never make a noise. The little bastard, I'm sure, got out of the car, then probably forgot something, but due to my wife's bare essentials, I couldn't see him. Either way, we obviously turned around because the last thing I needed was another parole violation. Stupid Sammy's Law. Well, as it turns out, my son was just fine. After he searched all over the house and couldn't find us, he told me he just went and hung out. I believed him because I remember when I was that age, and you have a pretty good idea of what boys do when they are home alone for a period of time. Since our short getaway was ruined, I gathered the family to sit around and watch a movie, and given the recent ordeal we just endured, I figured it'd be a fun idea to watch Home Alone, the 1990 movie written by John Hughes starring Macaulay Culkin. It's a story about a young boy left at home by his parents and winds up defending his house from burglars. I initially thought this would be a great opportunity to laugh at our own misfortune, but I came away from the movie quite distraught and honestly disturbed by what I saw. This movie was not about a lovable boy, but rather a narcissistic little that demonstrated full-on psychopathic traits that I believe are a preamble to a future serial killer. Kevin McCallister is an evil bastard. And this movie dismisses the warning signs by wrapping the whole ordeal in some silly humor. You need more convincing? Well, let's dive on in. Home Alone begins with an opening shot of this massive multi-million-dollar house outside of Chicago. When I first saw this as a kid, it never occurred to me the amount of wealth needed to not only pay the mortgage, but utilities, taxes, and insurance. Dude, you have to be making serious cash here. But that's my broke ass talking, so let's keep going. We are introduced to a hectic McCallister household with kids running everywhere, being unruly, and not even acknowledging the presence of 5-0 in the house. You know, this scene would be hilarious if they race swapped the families and a cop was just standing in the doorway.
Minority suspect! Minority suspect! Danger! He's got a gun!
We cut to the main protagonist, Kevin McCallister, played by Macaulay Culkin, about his Uncle Frank and calling him a jerk. You know, I had aunts and uncles I didn't like growing up, but I would never have openly called them names, especially in front of my parents. Kevin then openly on both of his parents at 8 years old. My mother would have decked me. He also acknowledged that he took his dad to make Christmas ornaments despite being told not to. Folks, we're 3 minutes into the movie and we already are seeing this narcissistic behavior. But we used to call them brats back in the day. Kevin is then kicked out of his parents' bedroom to pack his suitcase, to which he has no idea how to do. He asks his siblings for help, but all they do is mock him to the point where Kevin has a tantrum saying he's sick of the family and just wants to live alone.
Such a lovely family.
Next up, pizza time. The family has 10 pizzas delivered to feed 15 people, and little Kevin just wants a slice or two of cheese. He's not greedy, but yet his family, especially his older brother Buzz, goes out of his way to torment Kevin by literally stuffing the last slice in. While I recognize family bullshit, this is obviously deliberate and meant to further bully the young brother. Kevin undoubtedly is pissed and charges his brother. The fat Buzz obviously has no balance and proceeds to fall forward towards the counter, knocking over the soda, which drenches all the documents the family needs for its upcoming trip in the morning. This, of course, sends the rest of the family into a frenzy, trying to clean up the mess before everything is ruined, but in the end, everyone looks to Kevin as the instigator of the situation. Uncle Frank sums it up best.
Look what you did, you little jerk!
Kevin's mother orders Kevin upstairs, with the other siblings calling him names, despite Buzz obviously doing what he could to trigger Kevin and receiving zero consequences. I mean, it feels like Harry Potter had it better at the Dursley household. Kevin begrudgingly heads all the way up to the 3rd floor, but not before taking a cheap shot at his mother. He tries to recover with giving her the sad cat eyes, but Kevin's mother holds her resolve, and Kevin reverts to his little bastard self while continuing to make little comments. This whole family has a major toxic environment. The youngest is getting bullied by the older siblings, while the parents just ignore and blame Kevin for all their issues. Many of us would say, oh, he says it's too easy compared to my childhood. But just remember, it's the one that no one sees coming that are the most deranged. While up on the 3rd floor, which it really just looks like an attic space with what looks like a wood-burning fireplace. Yeah, I would allow my kid that's angry with the whole family access to something that could easily burn the house down. Kevin just stares at the ceiling, wishing for his family to disappear, which basically means he's wishing for them dead. Well, a storm of some kind shows up without any precipitation, which is a little strange, but whatever. It knocks out the power, which resets the clocks, and somehow all 15 people in the house sleep until 8 a.m. Okay, who the f*** does that? When my family comes to visit, I'm lucky to sleep to 6:30 in the morning. Anyways, everyone's in a rush, and during their panic scramble to catch their plane, no one thought to check on Kevin, your 8-year-old son. Man, there's something wrong with this family. I think Charles Manson would have been a better dad, but moving on. So Kevin finally wakes up and walks around, noticing no one is around, and begins to freak out. He runs out to the garage to check to see if his parents' cars were still there, just in case they had left for the airport. When he sees the cars are still in the garage, he realizes that his family didn't just leave. Kevin goes back inside and starts to think about all the things his family said to him, and turns to the camera, smiling, and says,
I made my family disappear.
I mean, holy dog balls! What a psychopath! I remember being pissed off at my parents when I was 8, but I never wished death upon them. Jesus Christ! Kevin really believes that he made his parents disappear? He wanted them dead! He starts celebrating like the goddamn Mendes brothers, partying like a rock star. Holy shit, if I were 8 years old, I'd freaking the out, but not here. Dahmer showed more remorse than this little bastard.
Jeffrey Dahmer? I love this guy!
The parents remember mid-flight that they forgot their little bag son and begin to panic. But of course, the phone lines are down due to the windstorm from the previous night. They land in Paris and immediately try to reserve a trip back. Oh, by the way, yes, you can do a private flight back. There would have been availability, but it would have cost you anywhere between $50,000 and $100,000. Don't ask me how I know, but I know. So just remember this, folks. Kevin McCallister was worth less than 50 grand to his millionaire parents. Just saying.
Life means nothing.
Meanwhile, Kevin, that little psychopathic bastard, is living his best life. But a couple of burglars decide that his silver tuna of a house is worth breaking into. They sneak up to the back door, and while attempting to gain entry into the house, alerts Kevin from his happy slumber. Kevin proceeds to turn all the lights, which causes a panic with the burglars, thinking the family is still in town, so they decide to leave the house alone. For now. Kevin is obviously freaked out that someone might be onto his murder spree and decides to hide, but has a moment of boldness and walks outside only to be confronted by his nosy neighbor. It's at this point that Kevin knows he needs to go incognito for a little bit and doesn't answer the door, even when the 5-0 shows up. This somehow works and his secret is safe for the time being. The next morning, Kevin has a conversation with his inner demons, just like Smeagol did in Lord of the Rings. The conversation seems innocent enough, but the masochist voices in his head insist that Kevin apply a corrosive chemical to his face, making Kevin scream in pain. While Kevin fights for his sanity, we flip to the burglars, who appear to have moved on to a vacant house nearby. The phone lines, which are now working, let in a call from Kevin McCallister's father, and the answering machine picks up. The burglars listen as Peter McCallister informs the vacant neighbor that they are currently out of town and would appreciate a call back. While this is helpful to the burglars, it does beg the question as to why did the parents not call their own house? I think they did, and I'm willing to bet that Kevin's inner psyche took over when Kevin applied that hazardous chemical to his face and proceeded to unplug all the phones in the house. His alternate personality was protecting Kevin. Otherwise, the 8-year-old would have heard his answering machine and or just picked up the phone to realize he didn't kill his parents and that his joyriding was now over. The demon, though, is obviously successful, and the unsuspecting Kevin is none the wiser. However, Kevin now faces a new challenge. The supplies in the house are running low. He is in need of food and other sundries. So, knowing that his older brother is indeed dead, he steals whatever money he can find out of his room. But the cash is limited, so Kevin needs to be careful. The first thing Kevin does is pick some toiletries, but when he notices the cashier is a geriatric lady, he realizes that he can quickly confuse her and just steal what he needs. Kevin, however, did not see the teenager in the store, and as such had to perform an impressive feat to elude the older kid and some old beat cop. He uses his size to narrowly avoid capture and manages to escape. On the walk home, Kevin, in a moment of lucidity, realizes his actions and self-admits that he's a horrible human being. While Kevin is self-reflecting and only focusing on himself, he steps in front of a van and is nearly run over. After a little bickering back and forth between Kevin and the driver of the van, Kevin suddenly recognizes the driver as one of the burglars that attempted to breach his back door the night before. Kevin knows he has to lose the burglars, or he'll be in trouble quickly if he makes for his house. Realizing this, he beelines it to the nearest church, where he's able to hide defacing the baby Jesus manger out front. The burglars themselves find this too blasphemous for even them and decide to move on. Kevin, knowing he'll have visitors this evening, prepares a disguise. The burglars return to Kevin's house thinking that it's now vacant, since just hours before they overheard Peter McCallister leaving a voicemail, only to find it bustling with activity. Being the dimwits that they are, they simply take it at face value and don't investigate further. Kevin McCallister has won the day.
Holy shit, work!
Kevin decides to celebrate by tormenting the pizza guy. He orders the same cheese pizza that he was denied 2 days ago. The little psycho would prefer to harass an innocent dude just trying to make a buck. The pizza guy is probably doing this pizza delivery gig as a second job while trying to pay for school. But all that is inconsequential to Kevin McCallister, who is happy that his family is dead. He creates the illusion that he's a tough guy and only tips the pizza dude at 1%, and then proceeds to play gunshot noises to scare the shit out of a dude working a thankless job. Later that evening, Kevin actually shows a little bit of remorse, but it's fleeting and is gone by the next morning as he's singing White Christmas along with Bing Crosby. Kevin continues his day by going food shopping. However, he knows too many folks might be getting suspicious of his activities, so he plays it straight with the cashier and doesn't steal anything and pays for his groceries. The cashier and Kevin have a little back and forth, with Kevin responding in a snarky manner. The cashier, not appreciating his antics, gives Kevin defective bags to pay him back. Poor little girl didn't know the little monster she's with. Back at home, Kevin's inner demons begin bubbling to the surface and attempt to distract him. Kevin quickly shuts them down as he needs to stay focused. Right about this time, the smooth-brained burglars show back up confused as to why the party isn't still going on a day later. They must have thought the house was owned by P. Diddy or something. Nitwit Burglar 1 tells Nitwit Burglar 2 to check out the house. Nitwit Burglar 2 attempts to gain entry into Kevin's house, but is thwarted by a small doggy door. This mishap gives Kevin the crucial seconds he needs to scare the intruder away, and repeats the same scare tactic he used last night. To Kevin's surprise, the Nitwit Burglar 2 runs away like a little and jumps back into the van with Nitwit Burglar 1. They talk about leaving, but apparently they still have time left on their parking meter, so they decide to stay. We then cut to Kevin's mother, who has decided to fly around the country versus going home to check on her son. What a horrible mother, trying to skirt the responsibilities of parenthood. But it's at this point that John Candy hears her gloating and threatens to call the cops unless he comes with her and takes her home. Mom, realizing she's been caught red-handed, decides it is time for her to go home. Back at the McCallister house, the Nitwit burglars are catching up on some shut-eye when Kevin McCallister decides to show off his new saw. Unfortunately, this backfires on Kevin as the Nitwits use this opportunity to realize the little innocent-looking boy is home alone. Due to their lack of intelligence, the guards openly discuss their plan of attack on Kevin and even send him an Outlook invite listing the time they will return. This in turn gives Kevin the opportunity to prepare something horrific for the Nitwit burglars. Unbeknownst to the Nitwits, Kevin is nothing short of a savage. Later that evening, Kevin heads to church to formulate a plan with his associate and neighbor, Old Man Marley. Now I know what you were saying. How the hell could Old Man Marley be involved with Kevin? But hear me out. At the beginning of the movie, Kevin's brother Buzz talked about how Marley murdered his family and the cops never caught him because of lack of evidence. Well, wouldn't something like that appeal to the little Kevin, who in his own mind just did the same thing to his family? Also, remember, Kevin's dad Peter was calling all the neighbors to help check on Kevin. Why the didn't Peter give Old Man Marley a call? He lived next door. I mean, give me a break. Marley was absolutely involved in Kevin's scheme. Look, I get there are times when we don't get along with our neighbors. Sometimes you shoot their satellite dishes with a paintball gun or pour bleach in their flowers. But this is somewhat of an emergency. So you put your differences aside and help each other out. The only explanation is that Marley was involved and ignored the calls from Peter and never told Kevin. Why? Well, the psychopath was probably grooming Kevin to become a bigger monster than him. Plus, meeting at a church to discuss Kevin's plan is perfect. You're not meeting out in public, and there are no phone records that can be looked up later. Plus, if Kevin was this innocent kid, then why the hell didn't he ask for Old Man Marley's help? Well, more on this later. Okay, here's a question for the comments. How did Old Man Marley injure his hand? Also, please like and subscribe to this video. That way I can continue to bring you more of this useless content. Back to the movie. Armed with everything he needs, the little maniacal maniac returns home to implement his torture map. Kevin sets to work building traps that on a good day would only cause severe injury, versus full-on death if you aren't careful. You see, Kevin relishes in the injury and pain like a serial killer would. To kill your victims too fast would rob you of the joy you'd experience over watching them suffer in pain. A rational person would nail their door shut and grab a butcher knife, but not Kevin. To him, this is sport. Well, just as the time hits 9 o'clock, the Nitwit burglars arrive. I'll give them this. I've never seen more punctual would-be robbers in my life. So if there was any doubt that Kevin isn't an evil little look what happens when the Nitwits try talking to Kevin. Rather than use a baseball bat or a sharp weapon, he chooses a pellet gun to begin his torture rampage. Don't get me wrong, pellet gun shots sting like a son of a bitch, and some can even break the skin.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
But you're telling me a meat cleaver or a tire iron to Marv's head wouldn't have put him down and sent Harry running? Kevin is blissfully aware and celebrates after shooting both of the Nitwits. What happens next is the retarded turd burglars navigate their way through all of Kevin's demonic surprises. Some of the traps are definitely meant to cause harm, but others are really meant to humiliate. The savage Kevin wants the Nitwits to know he's smarter than them. It's just like watching a predator play with its prey before devouring them while they are still alive. Kevin feeds off this trauma and continues to try to up the ante. The Satanic Boys' victories are somewhat short-lived, as any reasonable intelligent robber would recognize the house is full of booby traps and retreat to a safe position to assess a plan of attack, but not these two cards. They continue to push forward knowing there's always something around the corner. Quite frankly, I started rooting for them to die because of their idiocy. I couldn't believe I was cheering for the serial killer, but I guess that's the murderer charm folks talk about. So as the Nitwits continue to push forward, Kevin ultimately is running out of traps and decides now would be a good time to call the cops. Only after he had his enjoyment torturing the mentally handicapped.
I work with retards.
Kevin teases the morons to follow him out of his house and into another. I can't believe how dumb these two dipshits are. The house is yours. Grab whatever you can. Cash, jewelry, you get what you can get, and scram. But not these two stupid fucks. They're butthurt that an 8-year-old Don messed them up. So rather than follow Kevin into the basement of the new house, the two wet tampons make for the front door in an effort to cut Kevin off, and it works. Well, kinda. The rascally retards never once considered Kevin might have an accomplice, another player unaccounted for. And that's exactly what happens, and Old Man Marley was ready for him as he decks both of them with a shovel. The funny thing is that I bet Marley would have loved to have a go at torturing those two idiots, but Kevin already called the cops. Well, by the time the cops show up, Kevin is already back home and looks to have covered up a fair amount of the evidence he used to torture the wet bandits. Huh, good to see Chicago's finest still have a response time. Anyways, the next morning Kevin's family shows up, and I have to say, Kevin looks pissed. He thought he had it all. A nice house, dead parents, dead brothers and sisters, dead aunt and uncle, dead cousins, and a serial killer mentor next door.
You could have had everything.
He was able to terrify and torture two unsuspecting nitwit thieves and nearly killed the poor bastards. He got away scot-free and was about to enjoy his Christmas, but all that is now gone. Everyone is back, and within a few minutes, Buzz was ready to start tormenting Kevin again. The only saving grace for Kevin is how he relished the idea of his family being dead, and he discovered how much he enjoyed hurting people. Kevin McCallister is an 8-year-old psychopath with solid indications he could and most likely will become a serial killer. Give it time, and this maniac is going to do some brutal shit. Just give it time.
What? A murderer, man, a real psycho!
Hey, thank you for watching. We hope you understand this is just satire, and we have a good time doing it. If what you saw here made you happy, please hit the like and subscribe button. And if you didn't like what you saw here, please hit the like and subscribe button, because it'd make me happy. Thanks for watching. Now please, just leave me alone.